Hey guys, this video is just going to be a kind of review discussion on a game I just completed actually an hour ago, and that is The Last Story on the Wii. Obviously one of the three Project Rainfall games, one of only two that got released, this and Xenoblade. I'm not really going to talk about Xenoblade too much. I know people like to compare them. I was watching Ball and Nick's review on this game, and he mentioned how people compare the games every time they talk about them. And they are very different games, like he said in his review. Xenoblade's this massive, sprawling RPG. It's a beast of a game, where this is kind of its own self-contained game. It's on the shorter side. I mean, Xenoblade is like an 80-hour game. This game's a nice 20-hour game. Right away, I'm gonna say I didn't care for this game. Which is surprising. I was really expecting to like this game, and I couldn't help but feel disappointed with this. I played it all the way through. I finished it. I finished it, but there were so many times playing this game where I just wanted to put the controller down, shut off the system, and never come back to it. It's probably one of the more frustrating games I've played in recent memory. Most games I play, I enjoy, but this didn't do it for me, and I'll give my reasons why. First, I want to talk a bit about the story, which honestly, the story and characters are pretty much the only thing I liked about this game. It's a very simple storyline, nothing too complex, which I actually kind of like that. I like some more complicated storylines too. I mean, I played Xenogears not too long ago, and that game's storyline is ridiculously complex. I love that. This is very, simple. It's kind of a cliche save the world type plot. I mean, all the different plot twists are really predictable. But for whatever the reason, I enjoyed it, and that's due to the characters. I find a lot of JRPGs, there's usually one or two characters that are really annoying. Tales of Vesperia, for instance, I mean, that's one of my favorite RPGs of all time, yet Carol in that game is kind of an annoying character. Usually the annoying characters in these kind of games are these little kids. This game, there's no characters like that. Every character in this game is very likable. Each character is different from one another. My favorite character is Serin. She was an awesome character, kind of like an alcoholic, really sultry kind of character. I don't know, I really liked her, very funny. I don't know, each character is definitely mature. The main character, Zale, and his relationship with Callista was fantastic. I loved that. The story is very compelling. All the way through, I was engaged, and I wanted to see what was going to happen next, despite its predictability and overall how cliche it was. I don't want to talk more about the story, because I would say experience it for yourself if you do want to play through this. I will say, though, that stories and character, probably the only thing I liked about the game, and it is what made me want to finish the game overall. So that's basically the story and characters. And part of the reason why I liked that so much is the voice acting. Like Xenoblade, it's British voice acting, and I don't know, I really like the British voice acting. I think it lends kind of a maturity to the game overall. You don't have these high-pitched girl voices or little kid voices. None of that stuff. Just very very great voice acting overall. Again, on the audio side, talking about the soundtrack. The soundtrack, it's got some good tracks. A lot of the tracks reminded me of Lost Odyssey, of course the same composer. I think the two tracks I liked the most sounded like they were ripped straight from Lost Odyssey, and that's what I loved. Other than that, the music I thought was maybe a bit forgettable. I didn't find myself actively listening to it. It just kind of seemed it was in the background at most of the times. But the soundtrack's good. Nothing amazing, but it's definitely good. Sound effects are, of course, great sound effects. I'll move on to the visuals now, which aren't really, I don't feel graphics are important to really any game. The visuals themselves, how can I say this? It's a Wii game. I mean, Wii games typically don't look the greatest unless Nintendo does them, or if it's Xenoblade. I think Xenoblade looks fantastic. This game, I don't know, I don't find it looks as good as Xenoblade does. I don't know, it's a lot of browns and grays. I found most of the environments in this game to be very uninteresting and boring, to be honest. The main city that you explore is nothing too interesting to look at. And the game's got overall this very blurry look to it, I guess. I felt Monster Hunter kind of had this look to it too. Everything's kind of blurry and there's a lot of jagged edges all over the place. I don't know. I don't think it's that great of a looking. I don't think it's a great looking game personally, but that doesn't really matter overall. I think the character models are excellent. I do like the character models quite a bit, and the visuals overall they're serviceable. And with that, I've kind of gone over all of the things I liked about the game. Everything I talk about now is aspects of the game I did not like, and it's really a shame. I know a lot of people like this game. It got great reviews. I don't know. I'll explain why I don't like this game. First off, I'll explain that this game is, it's not like Xenoblade. This game is a very small game. I mean, the whole game takes place on a single island. There's one main city that you'll explore. It's, there's side quests in this game, and there's no way to actually track them. And it's like the game's kind of divided by chapters, and these side quests are actually different chapters, which I found strange. For example, I was around level chapter 33, and I was exploring the town, and I just found this like robed man, I guess, roaming through the streets, and I started chasing him because a cutscene showed him, and it just got me into this side quest where all of a sudden it would say at the bottom of the screen, chapter 12, and I was like, what the fuck? What's going on here? And it's this massive side quest that just, I don't know, I was supposed to find it earlier, and I guess I just didn't. And I found it way later in the game, and of course, because I found it so much later, the rewards I got from it were useless. So it was just a giant waste of time. But these side quests, I don't know, I would have liked it better if there was a way to track them. I mean, you really have to work for it in terms of finding the side quests and completing them. There are substantial rewards. I think it's worth seeking them out. I never felt compelled to do so, because overall I just was not enjoying the game. So it's a very linear game. There's not much exploration at all, which, I mean, that's another one of the reasons why I didn't really like this game that much. I love exploration in RPGs. I mean, a game like Xenoblade, I don't really want to compare them, but Xenoblade is just such a fun game to explore. I mean, those environments were so interesting. There's so many side quests that were trackable. Just tons of exploration. This game, very linear, the chapter setup. And the game really doesn't let you explore the city. I mean, there's certain points where it will let you explore that city, but most of the game you're following the storyline straight through, and the game's taking you from place to place. You can't deviate from the path whatsoever. The game wants you to go where it wants you to go. So, I don't know, I wasn't too big into that. Now, the last story is kind of billed as a JRPG, and it certainly has its RPG elements, but it's really not that deep of a game. You level up, your characters level up, and there's equipment. You can equip different, I think, greaves, body armor, and weapons, and that's it. Weapons are useful, weapons are fun to collect, and you can, in the town, you can, go and upgrade weapons and buy weapons. It's got a very simplistic upgrading system, which I didn't mind. I actually hate it when upgrade systems are super complex. This game did it quite well. You just gather materials that you find in battles and use them to upgrade your weapons. I think up to plus 10 is the max on some of them. You can get some cursed weapons and things like that. You can get crossbows that you can upgrade, and your armor can be upgraded too. But the game even tells you that the armor is not that useful, and it really isn't. I mean, you should be upgrading it, definitely, but you don't need to actively buy armor or anything like that. You'll find it just battling. Weapons are a bit different. You do have to pay attention to what weapons you equip on your characters. But in terms of RPG elements, that's it. There's no skill trees or anything like that. When you level up, certain characters gain skills at certain levels. Your party, I think you can get quite a few people in your party at certain times, but you can never pick what characters are on your team. It's all dependent on what the story events are like. There's a lot of times it will just be you'll be Zale by yourself. Other times you have 2 characters. Other times 6 or 7. You have no control over that whatsoever. So yeah, kind of like an RPG light game, which I certainly wasn't expecting. Well, I kind of was, but it's nothing like Xenoblade, which has all these different complex systems. This game's very very simple, which, to be honest, I didn't mind all that. I thought that was fine. Now, other than battling, which I'm going to go into that a bit later, and that's going to be where I talk about the battle system, and that's where all of my major complaints with the game are. It's a very linear game. There are no puzzles for you to solve. The game is basically, talk to different characters to progress the storyline and do battles while going through linear environments and, to be honest, uninteresting environments. You can do the side quests, but and some of them are quite interesting, but most of them I found were just kind of boring. I don't know. It's one of those games where the more I played it, the more I didn't like it. To be honest, I did actually kind of like this game in the beginning hours. I thought it was fun at first, and then I started noticing some of the flaws and things I did not like about the game, and they just got worse as it went on. This is one of those games that, it took me only 21 hours to beat, but it felt like a 50-hour game. Towards the end, I wanted it to end, and it just kept on going, which is another complaint. Like, towards the end, it just dragged on, and and I was being frustrated. I was frustrated with it and not liking this game, so that made it even worse. But with that said, I'll go into the main chunk of the game, which is the battle system. Now, if you are going to play this game, immediately, right off the bat, go into the options and turn on manual attacking. I started this game with the auto attacking, which is kind of like Xenoblade, where you'll run up to an enemy and your character will just start slashing at the enemy immediately, and if you back off, he'll stop slashing, which, I found it odd in Xenoblade, and it's even worse here when you've got all the different other mechanics of the battle system going on. It just flat out doesn't work. With the manual attacking, though, at least you can actually, press a button and do your attacks, and you can kind of face off against certain enemies and kind of pick who you want to fight without getting jumbled up. But definitely go into the options and switch that. It makes things much more pleasant. Okay, so the battle system. This is a weird battle system. It takes quite a while to grasp all the different concepts. It's a very different battle system. Basically, it takes advantage of the environment. You can duck behind cover and do these kind of slash abilities from behind cover. You can gain different abilities as the game progresses. I'll go over the different aspects of it. First, probably the most important aspect is your gathering ability, which if you press the left, I was using a classic controller, the left trigger, not LZL, but just the L trigger, you can activate your gathering ability, which basically makes all the enemies go after you. Kind of like a taunting effect. And basically you can just guard attacks and get up a burst, like a burst meter type thing, and let that off. And this, you have to use this quite a bit for different enemies and bosses. But that goes in combination with the circles, I guess. I forget what they call them. But there's these circles. There might be a fire circle or a healing circle that your mages in your party can use. And if you use your Gale ability, which basically if you hold the A button, you can kind of get this cursor and you can kind of survey the battlefield and then kind of choose what circle you want to Gale attack onto. And your guy will kind of do this gust attack towards the circle. If you do it on heal circle, your whole party gets healed. But that heal circle disappears. That's called diffusing a circle. Already you're probably confused as hell. It's I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to explain the different systems going on. There's elements of stealth to the game. A lot of times you'll run into battles and the enemies won't see you, so you can kind of stealthily go around, though it's hard to, I don't know. They want you to be stealthy a lot, but I find it hard to really be stealthy in this game. Each time you get into a battle, they kind of do this battlefield surveying thing. They'll tell you what all the different enemies are. There might be a healer or a mage. They say, go after these guys or do this to go after these guys. You can have, you have your crossbow as well, so you can actually aim your crossbow at enemies. I found that aspect of the game infuriating. Just talking about the battle system, I'm getting angry thinking about it, because you can go behind cover or whatnot, trying to aim at enemies that are far away, and they always fucking shoot you, and you fall down or get paralyzed just as you're about to take out your bow. It's so slow taking out your bow and actually shooting guys that I never bothered with that shit. It was just infuriating, and a lot of times they do make you use that bow. But basically, your AI teammates, they go around using their different circles, and this is another negative aspect of the game. The AI in this game is fucking terrible. I've heard some people say it's not that bad. For me, I don't know. I found it awful if you weren't issuing orders yourself, which you can do that. But if you're letting your AI teammates go on, by themselves, they'll just get killed so fast. I mean, this game, too, there are so many times in this game where you'll be just one-shotted, which, actually, this game, I'll talk about that a bit. There's lives in this game. Each character has 5 lives. If a character loses all their lives, it's game over. It's got, like, a checkpoint system. Each battle is kind of like a checkpoint. The way the game flows is very weird. But yeah, your teammates, I find, they'll just run in and just get killed immediately. They're just useless if you don't issue direct orders, which you can do that if you, like, kind of get this bar full, which a lot of times it won't be, so you gotta just hope that your teammates don't die. But when your bar is full, you can issue each teammate on your team to do a different command. That works well, because it only takes a few seconds if you do it that way for your teammates to use different abilities. So that works well, but besides that, I think the AI is just trash, really. But these kind of circles that you diffuse, and enemies can use these circles too, and you got to diffuse them, of course. But my main problem with this battle system is, I mean, there is a lot of strategy for sure, but only if you're fighting basic enemies, where they can be killed in any means. Of course, a lot of the times you can just go up and hack and slash them to death, and it's actually quite easy. Because I will say a majority of this game is actually pretty easy. And towards the beginning of the game, most enemies can be dispatched any way you want. You can use your bow if you want. You can be stealthy. You can hide behind cover. Use all your different skills. You can block. You can do these counterattacks and things like that when you're fighting just standard enemies. However, most enemies in this game, and pretty much all bosses, take a very specific strategy to beat. Basically, this strategy is a strategy made by the developers, and you have to do this strategy. If you don't, you will lose. Almost every boss battle I went into, I died the first time. Especially later in the game. Later in the game, every boss I'd go in, I'd just get slaughtered because I was fumbling around trying to figure out the different certain strategy to take them down. And the problem with this is, once you do learn this strategy, the bosses are ridiculously easy because you just repeat the same thing over and over and over again. And it's repetitive. Like, later in the game, the bosses take so fucking long to kill. The final boss especially. The final boss is like this massive 30-minute battle. I died like twice on him right at the end, and I had to do it all over again. The last 5 hours of this game were some of the most frustrating and just downright tedious hours of a game I've ever played. It was pure torture, which I was saying about Kefka's Tower actually in Final Fantasy VI a while ago, but that's nothing compared to this game. But the boss battles, I think, are just really poorly designed. They give you this really creative, unique battle system, yet you have to play by the game's rules. They don't allow you to experiment. Of course, I say that lightly. I mean, you can experiment to get that specific strategy, but you can't fight battles your own way. You have to fight them the way the game wants you to, and I hate that. I hate when games are like that, and this game does that. And I was liking the game in the beginning because you can play the game your own way. But later in the game, even the normal enemies, you have to fight them in such specific ways that it just, I don't know, it just sucks. I don't know, I just can't stand it. And, and that's really the whole game, is when the whole game is pretty much battling and then this uninteresting town to explore and uninteresting side quests, you can kind of see why I wasn't enjoying myself. So many times I felt I needed to put this game down. Now, another problem, or 2 more problems I have with the battle system, actually 3. This battle system is very chaotic. You know, there's constantly all these different spells and circles all over the place. Enemies are using magic all over the place. It's very chaotic. And there's just, you know, enemies and your teammates attacking all over the place. And, you know, at most of the game, actually, most battles I found, especially later in the game, the frame rate, ugh! Like, the frame rate causes some serious problems. I mean, there's so many times playing this game where I'm just, you know, attacking certain enemies, and all of a sudden the frame rate just goes to shit, and I don't even know where I am. The camera, which, that's another problem. The camera in this game, it's bad, especially in the battle system, in the battles. I mean, it just, a lot of the times you'll be facing an enemy attacking them, and he'll knock you down or whatever, and the camera will just swing around and look somewhere else. It's so annoying. So, you know, the frame rate just, it gets out of hand. You'll just be one-shotted out of nowhere while you're struggling with the camera and frame rate. I can't count how many times I was just completely frustrated with the battle system and just the frame rate and the camera and just the chaotic nature of it. It all comes together to form this absolute clusterfuck of shit going on, and it just, I don't know. Very, very, very disheartening, really. So I think overall, what was so disappointing to me with this game is that they had this excellent battle system in place, a very unique battle system, yet, I don't know, the way they designed the game and the enemies and the bosses, it's just, I don't know, the battle system becomes kind of a chore. So yeah, other than like the main storyline, there's a multiplayer mode, I think. Like online versus and co-op. I didn't try that. I don't care for multiplayer, and I don't know how that would work. That'd be very strange, I would think. I didn't touch that, so I don't know how good that is. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the last story. A game that just, I don't know, disappointed me. I'd still say try it. It might be more your style of game as opposed to me. I don't know, just not what I was looking for, and those boss battles and enemy encounters just drove me nuts. But yeah, I think now I'm probably going to start playing some more pick up and play style games. I think I want to start Punch-Out on the Wii. That game looks really awesome. But that will do it, guys. What did you think of the last story? Did you like it? You know, did you have the same problems as I did? I don't know. I don't know. Disappointing. I was really expecting like this more than I did. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.